it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I'm using something kind of fun and new. It's PaperArtsy's Infusion Stains. These are really unique and super fun to work with. They come in small jars with a little metal lid, and there are several colors to choose from. And I have 5 colors that I've started off to work with. With these metal lids, there's a couple things that you want to do. You want to create a little opening so that you can use the stains without having to spill out from the jar. If you were to try to sprinkle this on, you're going to get a whole lot of color. So I have watched a video from PaperArtsy, and they've used a little awl to poke a hole into that lid. It's really easy, so just use your poke tool or a small awl and just peel out that little plastic or foam lid piece that's in there and just discard that. And then the metal is really thin, so all you need to do is to push a hole from the inside, pushing to the outside. Once you have your hole, you go ahead and seal up the little jar, and you can put a piece of tape on the top just to secure it, so if the jar happens to tip over, you don't get any of the crystals on anything. So this is super easy to do and a quick way to store your stains. The technique I've chosen to do with these is to use the glazing medium from Ranger. This is a medium that extends the length that you have to use with acrylic paints, and it also works with these crystals since they are water soluble. The glazing medium is almost a colorless paint, so this can be used with even the distress markers or any water soluble type medium. So I have some watercolor cardstock here and also a brush that I'll be using. And what I want to do is to just grab some of that medium and go ahead and brush it in an area onto that watercolor paper. So I'm going to choose one of my colors, and this is the sage. And so I'm just going to sprinkle on a little bit so you can see that I haven't added much. So just like a salt and pepper shaker. So now I'm going to run my brush up and down into those crystals or the powder. And as it works into that acrylic medium, it starts to dissolve and I can push the color around. What is most unique about these colors is they also contain walnut stain powders, and the walnut stain kind of appears a little bit later after the color dissolves. It takes a little bit longer for that to dissolve, so this is what gives you this really cool distress look. Next, I'm going to add a second color, and everything is still wet, and I'm just adding a little bit more of the glazing medium to the top. And then I can sprinkle on some of the Sunset Beach color, and this has a lot of red, also a little bit of orange in there. So I'm just going to spread a little bit on there, or sprinkle a little bit on there, and now I can start smoothing that out with the paintbrush. So the more I drag it out, the lighter the color gets, and it's also mixing with the color that's sitting underneath. By just moving my paintbrush up and down, I'm getting almost a wood grain effect. So I'm just going to keep going with this and continue my strokes in the up and down motion to make it look like a wood background. I'm adding a little bit more of the glazing medium to the left side, and I haven't cleaned my brush out in between. You can kind of see that walnut stain coming through. So I'm just spreading this out a little bit, and I can go in and add a third color, but I think I'm going to stick with the 2 colors, and so I'm going to add in a little bit more of that Sunset Beach. I'm just going to sprinkle this very, very slightly. I don't want a lot of color down in the area. It just gives me so much. And the glazing medium's a little bit drier now, so my color's a little bit more intense. So now I'm going to continue pushing the left part, and again, I haven't cleaned my brush off. You can see that walnut stain come out of my brush. And I'm going to go back in with the sage color and just complete this card off a little bit. So I've only just sprinkled on a slight amount. I know that I'm going to be stamping on this area, so I don't need to have it completely dark. But now I'm mixing in with some of the red that might still be in my brush, and I'm getting a really cool mix of colors. What's really nice with working with the infusions, if you think you need to add a little bit more color, you can always go back in and go ahead and add in more. So for that, I have not added any more of the glazing gel. I'll go ahead and add that over top, and it still works the same way. So I'm just going to kind of go back over some of my pieces and let those colors blend out a little bit. At this point, I've allowed my panel to dry, and you can see that that glazing medium, it gives me just a nice matte finish. There's nothing glossy about it. So now I'm ready to do some stamping. The stamps I'm using are called Hot Picks, and this is 1506 from PaperArtsy. It's an unmounted stamp, and I have just laid this right onto my craft sheet to go ahead and stamp my panel. I'll be using the black archival ink to stamp over my panel here, and it's the best for multimedia projects, I think. So I have masked off part of this stamp with a piece of paper, and I just need to lay down my panel right on top of the inked surface there, decide which is up and which is down, left and right. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay this down. Then I'm going to grab another piece of paper and just go ahead and rub on the back of the paper, and this will transfer the ink right onto my panel. And once I feel I've applied enough pressure, I can go ahead and lift off my panel, and I have my stamped image. I'm going to be stamping some other flowers onto my panel, and these are a bit different of a look. My butterflies are sort of vintage, and these flowers are a little bit more modern looking, but I think it's kind of fun to mix these together. So I'm making sure everything's lined up. I'm using my Misty tool, using my archival black ink again, and I'm just going to go ahead and press those down. Then I can open the Misty and reveal my stamped image. I've played with some of the color on a scrap piece of Nina White cardstock, so I have the Sunset Beach here. I also have the Violet Storms, which has a lot of blue and a lot of violet in it, and when you blend it out, it's really nice looking with the walnut stain. I also have the Limoncello down here to the bottom, and then up at the top I've added Limoncello and the Sunset Beach together, and then a little bit of Violet Storm to the side. So from my test scraps, I have found this color to be the most appealing to me, and I've stamped my flowers, which I'm going to be mounting onto my card. And before I do that, I want to go ahead and trim around these with my scissors, and then I can use some foam tape to mount those up. Before I add them to my card, I do want to edge the sides with a black marker. You can use any type of water-based marker or even a permanent marker, and just go ahead and color that white core paper on the side. At this point, I have added my flowers to the card panel, and I've also trimmed it up to fit onto my note card. And before I add it to my note card, I'm just running my archival black ink around the edges just to frame in that cardstock and cover up the white area. To finish up this card, I've just added a Tim Holtz quote band, and I've wrapped around some black twine onto the back and put the knot actually on the back so I have a nice clean looking panel. I really love the effect that you get with the infusions stains. I really like the wood grain look, and also that it has the walnut stain mixed in. And your colors are really nice and muted, which happens to be a favorite in my color palette. But I really like the mixture of colors as well to frame in those flowers. And also to just add a nice little word quote at the bottom to keep my card nice and clean. So I'm really excited about this product. I can't wait to try some more techniques with it to see what I can make. I hope I've given you some inspiration to try something new. I've also listed all the supplies. They are down in the description below, along with a link to our blog post for still shots of this project. You can find us on many of these social media outlets such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, and here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.